Hi, I'm Tanya with Y'Light. The question is, how do you trust after divorce? The answer is you have to be able to trust yourself. Trust, the definitions of trust, just real quickly, are reliability, truth, ability, and strength. Look at the ability, reliability, ability. We have to have this ability to seek and know our truth. And we have to have the strength to be able to hold our truth and communicate our truth. And this develops a reliability on ourselves. We can rely on ourselves to know our truth and to speak our truth, which helps us to trust ourselves because it increases the confidence that we're going to be able to keep ourselves safe. So, divorce happens to be one of the best times to learn how to develop a strong trust in yourself if you haven't already developed it. And the reason why is because our emotions are really front and center. There's an increase in emotional pain. There's grief, there's depression, there's fear, there's anger, and all of these emotions are trying to tell us something, and this is where we learn to listen to ourselves and trust ourselves. It's actually a very good opportunity to learn how to trust yourself. Now, I always approach things from the body, soul, and spirit. In the Bible it says we are these three parts: body, soul, and spirit. Now, when we go through a divorce or a trauma of any kind, our soul becomes very activated. And that's because our soul, our very self, doesn't want to die. It wants to stay safe, growing, and alive. So our soul is where we're going to be hearing these messages. Our soul includes our mind, our emotions, and our free will. That's our mind is our thoughts, our emotions are our feelings, and our free will, our will is our desires, our actions, where we act things out. So here's where emotions are coming from. They're coming from our soul. Why are they coming from our soul? What is our soul trying to communicate to us? Well, often in our mind, if we have a certain thought, thoughts will lead to emotions almost 100% of the time. So if you have a thought, and we have lots of thoughts after divorce, he betrayed me, it wasn't fair, I'll never love again, I'll be hurt forever. These thoughts can create certain emotions, and thoughts of others can create certain emotions. Now, this is all normal. This is the soul trying to protect you and keep you safe. The thought of, it's not fair, or I will never love again. If you can look at the messages from your soul, they usually have a protective element to it, or they have I'm trying to solve a problem here for you. So our soul is protecting us. Our soul is trying to solve problems, and our soul is trying to get us to move forward. So one of the first things, number one, to trusting yourself is we need to realize our soul is our friend. It's here for our benefit. So that means our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions are all telling us something valuable. So often what happens when there's an increase in emotional pain or an increase in thoughts is we try to numb those feelings, or we try to make the feelings go away. And by doing that, we're actually denying our truth, and that will decrease our confidence in our ability to take care of ourselves, because if we can't even see our truth, hear our truth, how are we going to be able to be in a relationship where we need to be able to express our truth in order to keep us safe and moving forward? That will increase the trust. So I know it sounds a little bit complicated, but I wanted you just to first realize when you have a feeling, try to not reject it. It's part of your soul, yourself, trying to tell you something that's important. Now, all of these definitions, reliability, truth, ability, and strength, really are qualities of the Spirit. So how we can begin to process our feelings is we turn to the Spirit, and Spirit is known as the lamp or the light. And Spirit can come in and take that feeling that you have, let's just use fear, and shine the light, like, I'm feeling fearful. That's step one. That's the truth. I feel fearful. The light's shining on that emotion now. And we're just sitting in our body. And one of the things I really recommend when you're doing any work with your emotions is to be still. Hold the body still and work with your soul and your spirit are on the inside of you. And when we hold still, we can do that work a lot more efficient and effectively. So we're in the Spirit is helping us to process our feelings, and this allows us to rely on ourselves to process these feelings. So the second thing that we really have to do is only observe our feelings. So we observe the soul, we observe our soul with our spirit. And by doing this, we're actually being, what it talks in the Bible about is surrendering to the Spirit, because the Spirit is where the strength is found. So it's real important to be still and observe our soul. So we're observing our emotions, we're observing our thoughts, and we can observe our actions. But actually what we want to do is observe our thoughts and observe our emotions and not have a reaction. So this is the way we process our feelings, is we're looking at them, we're shining the light, we're observing them, and we're listening. What's the message to your fear? It's usually fear is protective. So, like you're walking through the woods and there's a bear and you get fearful. Well, that fear is trying to protect you. So a lot of our feelings have a deeper message that's supposed to help you. So if you have a lot of fear, for example, we need to listen to that feeling, because it's telling you on some level you're not feeling safe, and it's important for you to develop some protective measures for yourself. So you see how the emotions can really work for you. And we do tend as a society to try to ignore our feelings and repress our feelings. My pastor, Rick Warren, always said, what can be seen can be healed. So whatever is revealed to us by the lamp, by observing, by listening, whatever is revealed can be healed, and we want to heal our emotional pain. So it's establishing this situation where we're actually using spirit to listen, observe, and shine the light on, his healing light, onto our emotional pain. And when we do that, we hold that pain with love and compassion, it tends to be released. So the other thing we're doing with spirit is when we become still, this is where we can find God's wisdom, and he can tell us what we need to do with that emotion and the message of the emotion, what we can do as an action to help release that emotion. A little complicated, but it's the work that we can do to learn to trust ourselves, and we don't abandon ourselves. So some of the distrust inside comes from the fact that we reject ourselves, we abandon ourselves, we don't listen to our own truth that's trying to keep us safe, solve a problem, and move us forward. So that is the beginning of trusting yourself, is acknowledging that you have a part of you, three parts, and they're all working in your favor. They're all trying to help you move out of the darkness and into the light. So it's very important that we listen and observe what's going on inside. So I really believe that trust and truth are connected. They go hand in hand. And we know that truth is found in our heart. God's spirit is known as the spirit of truth. So the more we can take our truth, whatever it is, you might think, try not to think of your truth as crazy, because your truth is your truth. Don't let anybody tell you your truth is not your truth. That's really important. So the more you trust your truth, the more your confidence is going to go up, and your confidence to be in a relationship, your confidence to keep yourself safe. This is how you are developing trust after a divorce. So remember how Jesus said the truth sets you free, and this is so true. So when we live by our truth, not only does it bring us an authentic relationship and an authentic path, an authentic way to be, like, hey, this is my truth. It might not be your truth. It might not be society's truth, but this is my truth. And we are told our truth from the wisdom of Christ in our heart and the spirit of truth. That's God's will. He reveals it. He'll tell you the truth. So anyway, it does set you free. So here's a recap. Remember, our soul is our friend. So sometimes our mind, though, the thoughts in our mind aren't always true. So we have to discern our thoughts. What is true? What is not true? So when we can do that, this is how we can do that actually, is we ask ourselves, when you have a thought and you're thinking, this thought's creating a lot of emotion for me, a lot, like this thought's actually creating depression in me, then what we can do is ask, is that thought really true? And this is the practice of holding your thoughts captive and even seeking the Bible and God's Word to find a truthful statement that is your truth, that is aligned with your truth. This just happened to me. I was feeling really depressed. I had this thought, and it was every time I had the thought, I was depressed. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's this thought that's causing me to be depressed. And as soon as I found the thought in the Bible, and what I found in the Bible is anything that is holding you back and keeping you down and causing you to stumble, you need to let go of, because you need to be able to run the race that God has set before you. Now, the thought that I had wasn't that thought, but it was similar. But as soon as I found this new thought that came from God's Word, I was completely relieved of my anxiety, and now I'm holding on to the thought, God's thought, and it's really made a good shift in my emotions. So we accept our emotions, but we also have to ask often, is this thought true? Usually the emotion is true, the thought not always, but you have to ask this question, is it true? Is it true? Is it true? So then what you can do is have compassion for yourself. You are suffering. So if you have depression and you're unable to get out of it, or if you have fear, or if you have grief, or if you feel stuck in shame, how you begin to even acknowledge that feeling is by acknowledging an overall sense of, I'm suffering and it hurts. And we learn to have compassion for ourselves. And this compassion helps us to love ourselves even more. And that, of course, love is a healing force. So compassion and forgiveness, we learn to forgive ourselves, have compassion for ourselves, and then also forgive ourselves for whatever we're feeling, whatever regrets, whatever mistakes we made. Everyone makes mistakes, but we have to forgive ourselves. And the more we have compassion and forgiveness towards ourselves, the more that just becomes a regular practice in life. And then we can have compassion and forgiveness for other people as well, because everybody goes through stuff and everybody is suffering. So number 4 is communication. Now this might be a big leap for some people. It was for me. I learned how to find my truth, ask if it's true. My emotions are my friend. I could have compassion and forgiveness. But to actually be able to speak my truth to somebody else was kind of difficult for me. So the more you practice, the better you get at it. And the more you have worked out on your own what the truth is, and you can say it to a person without a big reaction behind it, like, my truth is I'm really angry that I feel betrayed, and this feeling feels horrible to me, and see my tone of voice, it's my truth. It's not, I'm so angry because I was betrayed and you betrayed me. And people don't receive those messages very well. So it's important that at this step, once we know our truth and we really know our truth, then to communicate it in a loving, clear, non-reactive way is really, now we're getting strong, right? Now we can put up boundaries. Now we can be in a relationship where we're creating change in the relationship that benefits ourselves. And then number 5 is protection. So learning how to trust yourself has a lot to do with protecting yourself. Our truth is there for us constantly, because our soul and our spirit want us to live our best lives ever. And they are God's for us, not against us. And they're in there trying to protect us. But if we're not listening to the spirit, our spirit and our soul and God's spirit, then we can get in situations where we're hurt. And then we have all that emotional pain, and then sometimes we react badly, and we get stuck in that cycle of not trusting ourselves or not trusting other people. So anyway, I hope that this was helpful. Sorry about the phone. I'm Tanya with Y'all Light, and go in grace and go with grace. Find your truth, and the truth sets you free.